ago, in a house not so far away, a young teenage boy tapped the shoulder of his slumbering 6-year-old sister. It was time. Reminding her to be quiet because the rest of the family was still sleeping, they made their way down the stairs and slipped out the door. Quietly, they crossed the yard, looking to the east. There they waited for the sun to reach the horizon, waiting for the sun to rise with its emerging colors in the bright glow of the sun itself. Though few words were exchanged, that daybreak was full of wonder and magic. Those few moments have been etched into my memory, there being the earliest memory I have of my brother Kevin. To this day, I cherish the image of that dark-haired brother sharing the wondrous spectacle of the sunrise with me. The brilliance of that morning has shaped what I want to share about Kevin. While some may think of Kevin as a typical, simple guy whose favorite color was blue shirts and blue Pepsi cans regularly in hand, he was quite colorful in his own way. Let's start with yellow. Perhaps it was mornings like I shared with Kevin that led him to love yellow in one particular shape. What shape? The meandering but brilliant yellow brick road. Kevin loved The Wizard of Oz, a yearly televised ritual as we were growing up. Then as watching it even more with videotapes, DVDs, and streaming made watching so much more convenient. I'm not really sure why Kevin was so fascinated with it. The magic, the simplicity, the munchkins and the music, maybe the mechanical wizardry of the great Oz himself. Whatever the reason, he was a devoted fan. True to the storyline, Kevin followed his own yellow brick road to places both new and familiar. White was also a color in Kevin's life. When I was 10 and 11, most likely an inconvenient tag-along, Kevin would occasionally take me with him to a white ranch house on a blacktop just a few miles away. The house itself wasn't the most important feature, however. It was the person living in it, Dwayne. Kevin and Dwayne were buddies then and buddies throughout, never failing to call, to touch base, to shoot the bull, or to analyze the state of farming. In some ways, they were each other's rock, sturdy, steadfast, and strong. However, there was also a colder significance to White, snow and ice cream. While Kevin developed an aversion to snow as he grew older, when he was an Elmore regular, snowstorms and piles of white often meant that he would soon be on a tractor, plowing out neighbors' lanes and an occasional road. Like the U.S. mail, nothing could stop Kevin's plow. Every hard-working plow guy does need sustenance. Kev's was white, vanilla ice cream white. Custard creamy vanilla would not do for his daily ice cream. Just give it to the man straight, though an occasional crispy chocolate coating was okay by Kev. White had a third significance for Kevin, the white lights of the stage. Perhaps Kevin's early exposure to drama, watching All My Children daily over the dinner hour, encouraged his flair for the dramatic. Or perhaps he simply misunderstood what it means to break the lake, when he literally did that on a trip to Alabama. Whatever the motivation, he played to his part, whether playing the villain in an Elmore melodrama or being the lead swimmer in a synchronized swimming skit. To some, he might have been the strong, silent type. To others, he was definitely a stage presence. In fact, few men could wear a formal evening gown quite as well as he did. Even the color black signified a nod to the dramatic. Even the color black signified a nod to the dramatic. With his James Dean look in high school, long sideburns and black slicked hair, he briefly tried the rebel life with his very small Honda, taking an unauthorized motorcycle ride to Rochester during the middle of the night. Cue unhappy parental music. He did get grounded. That grounding, though, was probably easier than the one a couple years later when he was attending Hawkeye Tech, which obviously had black as its school color. Kev jumped to catch a football pass, leapt into an ill-placed airplane, and ruptured his spleen. One surgery later, he sported a scar and a large and lovely black and blue bruise. In other words, black wasn't particularly kind to Kevin. Perhaps the Holsteins on Dad's farm, mostly black, were actually an omen. Cattle definitely were not Kevin's idea of farming. After all, who wants to do daily chores, muck through manure, and chase escaping cows? While black obviously wasn't Kevin's favorite color, I suspect that green actually was. Despite his protestations that blue was best, green dominated his life. Always a farmer at heart, he loved a field well planted, growing tall, clean, and green, cucumbers, buttonweed, and sunflowers notwithstanding. Moreover, as almost anyone could tell you, from Kevin's perspective, green fields were best tended by green equipment, always and only John Deere green. Whether he was farming independently, with Kenny, or with Dad, Kevin definitely had a farmer's green thumb. In his early years as a farmer, Kevin probably didn't suspect that another type of grain would become a significant part of his destiny: winter green estates in Texas. Though it was a 55-plus community, Kevin and Cindy, still wet behind the ears according to the regulations, began going there a few years early. Each year Cindy would text if they were leaving for Texas, and each year she sent that text sooner and sooner, with their way back to Iowa coming later and later. There they developed new friendships and new opportunities. Kevin became a pool man, not only taking care of it, but playing in it. Who knew he could play water volleyball, and as Nikki explained, hold the position of team smartass? The residents of Winter Green Estates soon figured out that Kevin was a handyman extraordinaire, good with a shovel, a hoe, a drill, a hammer, or a furniture dolly. Whatever the task, they came knocking at Kev's door. And if he wasn't home, they could stop him on his and Cindy's nightly golf cart tour of the community or on one of his daily strolls. After all, they just had to catch him on one of his 23,000 daily steps. Though Farmers Green and Winter Green Estates were important to Kevin, another green held his heart, the deep green shades of Cindy's eyes. High school sweethearts in Lakota, they became each other's best friends, being married 51 years. They cruised through life together, neither of them ever far apart. Indeed, the color green, whether fields, community, or deep green eyes, added richness to Kevin's life. Green eyes, however, were not the only eyes that meant something to Kevin. His were brown, just like those of Uncle Charles, just like those of Mom, warm and intense. Kevin looked into younger brown eyes too. They belonged to Phil, Nikki, and Julie. If we could look through Kevin's eyes, we would know that he looked through them with pride and joy, and probably just a bit of mischievous teasing. Maybe Kev loved brown eyes because they reminded him of another sweetness in life: chocolate. Kevin loved chocolate. Mom's chocolate cream pie and chocolate cake, Cindy's chocolate chip cookies, plain M&Ms, chilled chocolate covered cherries, and the creme de resistance, Tootsie Rolls. Tootsie Rolls, however, had to be the perfect size. Just like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, some were too big, some were too small, and some were just the right size for unwrapping, chewing, and savoring. Kevin didn't have a heart only for chocolate. He also had a penchant for a surprising color: pink. The pink he saw in the fresh faces of the youngsters who surrounded him. When Leanne wanted a horse in elementary school, Kevin would lead an ornery Stardust so she could ride around the farm. When Kev was roughhousing with Phil, I was never sure who enjoyed it more: Phil with his broad smile, or Kevin with his teasing grin. During those yellow dollhouse moments playing make-believe with Nikki, he didn't stop by just to play fix-it-man, he stopped by to play. Even the nieces and nephews had a playtime with Kev. Mitch and Haley never knew that floating corn cobs down the creek could be fun. And when Kevin challenged them to walk through head-high corn, how did they find their way home? He lifted Haley so she could see the way to go. Kev loved sharing moments with Billy, whether they were checking out a tool in the shed or challenging each other with a board game. With Weston and Declan, Kevin couldn't resist taking them out on the Ranger, racing and swerving around the pit, letting all three boys just be boys. When all is said and done, Kevin was simply a kid at heart. Kevin's life was a mosaic of colors, including a kaleidoscope of endearing quirks. Who knew that he was a game show freak, ready to watch Wheel of Fortune or Family Feud? Or who knew he was an old soul, a softie who still loved Andy Griffith and the Beverly Hillbillies? Or who knew he was a foodie with his own demands? He was a guy who never liked the food on his plate to touch. Each needed a space of its own. Kev liked hamburgers plain and simple too. His triple-decker was bun top, hamburger patty, and bun bottom. Just give it to the man, plain and dry. No vegetables, please. I can just imagine how Kev would react if it looked any different. With a leery look, he would begin puffing his cheeks in and out and in, a little shift to the side, all in staccato motion, something like this. As you can tell, we're going to miss much about Kevin. We will no longer celebrate 3 holidays in a row. Cindy's and Kev's wedding anniversary, Cindy's birthday, and then Kevin's. And we will recognize the missing man formation, going from 5 to 4. The bookends of Jeff and Leanne remain. The 3 Ks of Kevin, Kenny, and Karla now reduced to 2. But Cindy Lou, Philip, and Ichabod, there is one more message you need to know. In these last few weeks, I have come to associate another color with Kevin, one that I never would have guessed, the amber-orange hues of an Iowa sunset, the last of its golden rays piercing the western sky. That's where I picture Kevin. Though his sunset came much too soon, beyond the horizon where he now dwells, he is again watching the sunrise, both hands in his jean pockets, his farmer's cap on, and his sneakers ready to go. In that place of beauty, he is enjoying something even more glorious than the sunsets and sunrises he had admired before. He is walking down that golden path, basking in the welcoming light of eternity, blessed by the glow of the rising and risen sun.